Let me start with you, Captain Bish. Now, given the declaration by President Trump, now what immediate diplomatic implication does that have, especially on our relation with the U.S., both countries, sovereign states?
Okay. Good morning, and thank you for having me. Let me begin this way. The truth of the matter is that we have security challenge in Nigeria. The truth of the matter is the fact that the security problem we have in Nigeria has been ongoing for nearly 2 decades. Fact, government is taking action to deal with the problem. Fact, has the problem been solved? Of course not. People are still being killed. Either they are kidnapped, their villages are ransacked, they are burnt, and this information is not only here in Nigeria. People in Washington, D.C., trust me, they know what is going on in Nigeria. They know what is happening in Nigeria, probably more than a lot of people in this country know. If there is no evidence to that, you should look to the WikiLeaks leaks that took place. You see that U.S. has this broad intelligence infrastructure that they can gather clandestine intelligence from almost every country on the planet. What is going on there? Now, what is the immediate diplomatic implication? The implication, of course, is that, look, this offers Nigeria an opportunity to have an honest and genuine diplomatic discussion with this current administration. This administration, this U.S. administration, is like no other administration. It's even not like the Trump, what they call Trump 1.0, where he had experienced diplomats and the military officers that were advising him. This Trump 2.0 is completely different, right? This is an administration that shoots first before he asks questions. The previous time, he will ask questions before he will shoot. Now, we've had these challenges for a very, very long period of time. You had President Muhammad, before Muhammad Buhari, you had Goodluck Jonathan for 6 years. Now you have Buhari for 8 years. Now this current administration is now barely 2 years or 2 years. So if I'm one of those advising the current administration, as far as diplomacy is concerned, I would tell him not to try to take ownership of the previous administrations. I will not take ownership of Goodluck Jonathan and Muhammad Buhari's administration, because everybody knows that they failed in dealing with the problem. I will only talk about my 2 years that I have been in office. Okay, and ask that, look, and this is what I have, and let Washington know that, look, this is within these 2 years, short period of time that I've been in office, these are the steps that we have taken to deal with this problem. But these are the challenges that we are facing. How can you come in to help us in dealing with these challenges? And not to dismiss that we don't have all these problems, because everybody knows that we have these problems in Nigeria. It's public notice.
Indeed, everybody understands that this is the challenges that Nigeria faces. And that's why you see some Nigerians publicly, applauding or welcoming Trump's comments, not because they endorse this foreign interference, but because they feel helpless, they feel unheard at home. What does that reaction reveal about public confidence in Nigeria's security leadership? Well,
you see, it's also a fact that the confidence and trust of the public in their government in Nigeria has been declining for years. And this is driven mostly by the inability and the failure of, several administrations. Not this one, particularly the administrations that were before this, to have run in this insecurity that we're talking about. Everybody knows that it is the first order of business of any government is protection of lives and property. When any state fails to do that, then that state has failed in its responsibility. I have had people make the argument that this is a sovereign nation, the U.S. cannot come in. I agree, it's a sovereign nation. Now, within that sovereignty, there's also what is called the responsibility to protect. And that is that every sovereign nation must be able to protect all of its citizens and different classes of citizens. And where that sovereignty fails to do so, that international community has a responsibility to go there and protect those endangered class of people.
Okay. Captain, will come back to you on this. Prof, let's take a look at this. How can Nigeria ensure that this present narrative of alleged genocide against Christians does not define our international, our global image and our foreign policy? It's a very sensitive matter.
You see, my brother, colleague, Captain, made a submission that may not allow me to give you an objective analysis to your question. He, for instance, told us in terms of the implication and what to be done. He did say that the situation gives Nigeria an opportunity, and he talked about honesty, honest discussion, all right, to dialogue with Trump too, that is Trump's second term, being, well, in inverted commas, a good broker that we should discuss. As much as I believe that we can dialogue and discuss, it cannot be on the basis of stick and carrot. It cannot be. Because in this case, you are talking about interference. The issue is not interference. It does not have any problem with interference. In international law, diplomatic practice, interference is allowed. Anybody can interfere. But what the UN Charter provides for, particularly in Article 2, Paragraph 7, is non-intervention. Non-intervention. Interference does not mean intervention. When you interfere, you don't use force. It's not a question of use of force. But the moment you are going to use force, you move from the domain of crisis to conflict. You move from the domain of just diplomatic negotiations, dialogues, to use of force. That's why the UN Charter states clearly that non-intervention should be the policy in interstate relations. I have to make this point simply because the issue of international responsibility was also raised. Right. I quite agree with him. But you see,
all right, Prof, we hear you, and I would like to come in here very quickly because I understand your point. But President Tinubu recently told these security leaders that Nigerians expect results, not excuses. Now, beyond the battlefield tactics, is government losing this information war? I'd like you to answer me that very quickly, and by extension, public trust as well.
All right, you see, we can argue for and against. For, that is, government is losing, the information dissemination. And we can also say no, because we have foreign intervention is there. When we are talking about all these trust, for instance, do you know, do you want to argue, do you accept the hypothesis according to which there was a coup in Nigeria? You can continue to argue, but we also know that there is no smoke without fire. There is no smoke without fire. If you ask me as a scholar, was there any coup in Nigeria? I will argue that if we consider the fact that the coupists, the terrorists, have more equipment than sovereign army, when you consider how they have been able to sustain their militaristic attacks, you ask questions. It means that there are some people outside of the governmental framework funding, training, aiding, abetting all the attacks. And I will say, yes, there might have been coup. And I will tell you that in terms of trust, for instance, who wants to trust whatever argument any government wants to give when you are living with manifestations of insecurity? My contention, for instance, is that, look, if you look at what is happening at the level of bilateral ties between the United States and Nigeria, I will tell you that the policy of the United States is not to threaten, is not to even attack. The Americans wouldn't come to attack people purportedly killing Christians in Nigeria. No, the U.S. of Donald Trump is not interested in having Bola Akinterinwa in power. The policy of Trump too is regime change. That America wants Nigeria to go in a particular direction, and Nigerians are saying, two guys saying, no, we are a sovereign state, we wouldn't accept that. One example is you don't want convicted criminals, the Venezuelans, many people. They wanted Nigeria to host them.
Prof,
and Nigeria said no.